Josh broke records. The Bills get back in the win column after the loss to the Texans, and the NFL playoff picture heats up. Welcome to Bills Postgame. Bills, Steelers, next. Welcome to Sports for Beginners. This is the show where I cover the Pittsburgh Penguins, Toronto Blue Jays, and take you on a journey through the world of sports from the fans' perspective. Here is your host, Scott McGregor. Let's have some fun. One of the toughest matchups of Bills football this season that I have watched. And what a game it was. Before we jump into the game, let's talk about the head coaching and the inactives. Starting, of course, on the visiting side as the Buffalo Bills visited the Pittsburgh Steelers. Both teams' records coming into this game fresh out of week number 12 of the NFL season. The Buffalo Bills enter this game at 7-4, a record of 7-4. They are now 8-4, picking up the win over the Steelers, who entered this game with a 6-5 record, I should say. They are now 6-6, coming out of this loss. Head coaches Mike Tomlin and Sean McDermott. However, was this the last time we will see Mike Tomlin coaching the Steelers? A lot of fans in Pittsburgh started chanting, "Fire Tomlin." So Mike Tomlin, I think your job might be on the line. Anywho, what else? Oh yes, the start time of the game. I kind of messed that up on my game notes. It was a 4:25 p.m. start between the Steelers and the Bills at 4:25 p.m. Eastern, 3:25 p.m. Central, 1:25 p.m. Pacific, 2:25 p.m. Mountain. Josh Allen was the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. The former Packer, Aaron Rodgers, quarterbacking for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Backed up by Mason Rudolph, who did have to come into this game, and the backup to the Bills would also be Mitchell Trubinsky. But with that being said, let's jump to the inactives. Inactive for the Buffalo Bills as we start on the visiting side. Wide receiver Joshua Palmer, linebacker Terrell Bernard, cornerback Jamarcus Ingram, defensive tackle P. Mathias, offensive tackles Dion Dawkins and Spencer Brown also out, and tight end Dalton Kincaid also sidelined for this Bills-Steelers matchup. Inactive for the Steelers in this game, they were without emergency third quarterback Will Howard, wide receiver Scotty Miller, cornerback Darius Slay, defensive linebacker Logan Lee, and defensive tackle Derek Harmon. No scoring between these two squads in the first little bit of the game as we jump into the first half, second half highlights of our breakdown. So we're going to kick off our breakdown going half where the Pittsburgh Steelers fell 26-7 to the Buffalo Bills. It's a victory edition of Buffalo Bills postgame. Last time Buffalo and the Steelers met was January 14th, 2024 at Highmark Stadium, where the Buffalo Bills defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers 31-17. As we speak here, New England, who has yet to play today at the time of our recording on Monday, December 1st, 2025. Happy December to all of you. The New England Patriots are 10-2, but coming for that number one spot at 5-7 are the Miami Dolphins. 8-4 are the Buffalo Bills, as I mentioned. And they don't necessarily have a shot at the AFC East, but at 3-9, don't look now, but the New York Jets could be, if they pull off a win next week against the Dolphins, they could be trying to get in the conversation late. So don't look now, Bills and Dolphin fans, but the New York Jets, 3-9, don't look now, but they could be on the verge of coming for that AFC East title late in the season. Over in Pittsburgh's division, as we get into the plays, particularly the scoring drives, which began in the second quarter. Baltimore and Pittsburgh tied up at 6 apiece. Their records are both even at 6. Baltimore currently with the lead in the AFC North, but they are tied for the lead with Pittsburgh, who is 6-6 as well. The Cincinnati Bengals, who the Bills will see next week, are 4-8 and currently in third place in the AFC North. And right there, smack dab at the bottom of the list, are the Cleveland Browns, who the Bills will see in 2 weeks from next Sunday against the Bengals in Buffalo, as the Bills go on their final road trip of the season against the Patriots and the Browns before the Eagles and Jets come to town. The Browns, as we speak with you, are 3-9 as we speak. All right, enough gab. Let's get down to it. Here we go. It was a 7-play drive that led to the first points of the game after the first quarter went scoreless. But it is important to mention that Josh turned the ball over Allen, returned. However, it didn't phase Josh, and it didn't phase the team. Jaylen Warren getting things started on the ground for the Steelers. However, DK Metcalf received a 15-yard penalty, which would be enforced between downs for unsportsmanlike conduct. Extra point by Chris Boswell after the Jaylen Warren rushing touchdown for a yard. Up and good. And the Bills trail 7-0 right off the jump of the second quarter of play. We were still at zeros at the end of one quarter of play, but on to the scoring as we continue in our second quarter. In Buffalo's scoring drive here in the second quarter, they have to unfortunately suffer for a field goal, but a shotgun pass from Josh Allen, which lost 5 yards. It actually was a shotgun that never really got started for Josh. Connor McGovern of the Bills called for a false start, 5-yard penalty enforced at Pittsburgh's 4-yard line. We had also an injury update on Jay Pierre of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who had returned to the game. Matt Prater after the false start. At this point, it is 4th and 8. He has to hit a 27-yard field goal after the 5-yard false start penalty on Connor McGovern. And Matt does hit a 27-yard field goal to give Buffalo their first points of the game. At the half, the Steelers were up by 4. It's 7-3 at the half. Let's go to the third quarter. Here we go. And the Buffalo Bills, pretty much with the rest of the scoring plays here in the third quarter, Aaron Rodgers, and this is a defensive play here, Aaron Rodgers, but he's able to sack Aaron Rodgers. He would be injured on the play. Aaron Rodgers was injured on the play, but Bosa is able to sack Aaron Rodgers at the Pittsburgh 17-yard line for a 9-yard loss. Ball recovered by Christian Benford of the Buffalo Bills at the Pittsburgh 7 for a 17-yard touchdown. Extra point by Matt Prater, up and good. And Buffalo has taken the lead without even having to touch the ball first in the second half. Buffalo would get the ball first in the first half, and in the second half, they scored the game's first points on just 2 plays. A kickoff from Matt Prater, and then Matt is called to kick the extra point after a fumble sack from Aaron Rodgers. Because Aaron was injured on the play, he would miss one series, return later after the Bills score on a defensive sack fumble on the very first play of the Steelers' drive to kick off the second half. Bills on top to kick off the second half 10-7, and they were down 7-3 at the half. They were down by 4. Now the Bills have gone up. They've gone up by 4. Quickly double checking my math here. 10-7. Sorry, that's a 3. They're up by 3. Excuse me. But they do go up by a little bit more on this next play. This time it's offensive. It's a 9-play drive for the Bills. 56 yards resulted. And of course, it only took 16 seconds to go up 10-7 over the Steelers after the -9 yards lost by Aaron Rodgers on the sack. Recovered for a 17-yard touchdown, and Buffalo takes the lead. In the third quarter, this time on offense for Buffalo, Josh to Keon for the 1 yard touchdown. Cam Hayward accused of taunting. He's going to take not accused. He's going to take a penalty for taunting, 15-yard penalty enforced between downs. Josh beats Cam Hayward by getting a nice pass to Keon Coleman, who was sidelined for the last 2 games, which the Bills lost. 1 yard touchdown pass complete to Coleman. But unfortunately, Matt Prater, extra point, goes wide left, so he misses the extra point there. It's now 16-7 Buffalo. Buffalo up by 9. Would have been up by 10 if Matt Prater was able to hit the extra point, but it went wide left. So the weather in Acrisure Stadium in Pittsburgh playing a factor. Pittsburgh trailed by 9 at the end of 3/4 of play. Buffalo up 16-7. Next scoring drive for Buffalo, 16 plays, 83 yards, eclipsed 8 minutes and 14 seconds of the clock in the fourth quarter. Josh uses his legs, as we know he can, for an 8-yard touchdown, and this time Prater hits the extra point. Buffalo moving up by 9, and they move the score up to 23-7, which puts them up 16. Buffalo's up by 16 after the Josh Allen 8-yard run for a touchdown. Last play of the half, the fourth quarter, 17-play drive for Buffalo. Takes 9 minutes and 4 seconds total off the clock. And it's Matt Prater hitting a 37-yard field goal to give Buffalo a 26-7 lead, which means the Bills would come out of Pittsburgh with a 19-point victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers. They will beat the Steelers by 19 points. 26-7, your final. Looking at the line score here in Pittsburgh, 0 points on the board for both squads at the end of a quarter of play. Pittsburgh with the upper hand in the second quarter, leading 7-3 at the break, at the half, rather. In the third quarter, Buffalo taking charge in the second half with 13 points in the third quarter, 10 points in the fourth quarter. Pittsburgh with zeros in the third and fourth quarter. So weather playing a factor for both squads, but also leading to turnover in certain situations, like interceptions for one, fumbles for another. Before we go to our first break, let's take a look at the Thanksgiving weekend schedule. Take a look at the games from Friday and Thursday. These were games that were primetime specials, including the end of that triple header, which during Weekly in Sports is season 1 finale show. We reveal to you one final from that day on Thursday when we recorded. With that being said, I should say, let's take a look at the other action that went final. So the Packers beat the Lions 31-24 on Turkey Day. The Kansas City Chiefs fell to the Dallas Cowboys 30-28 in Dallas on Turkey Day. On Turkey Day evening, it was the Baltimore Ravens falling 32-14 to the Cincinnati Bengals. So one thing to keep in mind here for the Bengals and the Bills, both teams coming off of wins heading into next week. Over in the Friday game, which was a Thursday night football Thanksgiving special, the Chicago Bears defeated the Philadelphia Eagles 24-15 to improve their record to 9-3. Of the finals from the week leading into Sunday, the Packers improve to 8-3-1. The Lions go to 7-5. Cowboys go to 6-5-1. 6-6-6. The Chiefs record as they hit the next week. Ravens are 6-6 as well. Bengals coming into the week against Buffalo at 4-8. The Bears beating the Eagles improved their record to 9-3. Eagles record went to 8-4 with a 24-15 loss at the Bears. I should say hosting the Bears. They lost at home. Ravens also losing at home. Cowboys picking up the only Thanksgiving win on Thanksgiving tripleheader Thursday, Turkey Day. Lions among the Ravens and the Eagles, who were unable to pick up wins at home on Turkey Day and on the after party of Turkey Day, post-Turkey Day in America. Hope everybody in America who celebrated Thanksgiving had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Couple of finals from Sunday we'll get to momentarily, but just 4 games to look at here while we have it on screen. The Rams fell to the Carolina Panthers 31-28. Their record is now 9-3. The Panthers are now 7-6 with the win over the Rams. The 49ers picking up their 9th victory of the season. They beat the Cleveland Browns 26-8. The 49ers beat the Browns, that is, to improve their record to 9-4. The Houston Texans improved to 7-5 with a 20-16 win over the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts going into next week are 8-4 as we speak. They are 8-4 as we speak. And last but certainly not least, just to get it a little bit of Sunday's action, the Miami Dolphins improved to 5-7 with a 21-17 win over the 2-10, the now 2-10 New Orleans Saints. The Saints going into that game were 2-9, Miami 4-7. If Miami lost that game, they would be 4-8, but they picked up the win. And another team that picked up the win, one more real quick before we go to break, the New York Jets picked up their 3rd win of the season, beating the Atlanta Falcons 27-24. Don't look now, AFC East, but the job to decide who's going to win the division this year may not be so decided yet. Of course, we still have to wait on the New England Patriots. They play the Giants tonight. Giants already out of playoff contention. But a loss for New England could benefit both the Buffalo Bills. Actually, it will benefit Buffalo. It'll also benefit the Denver Broncos, Miami Dolphins, and the New York Jets. But the Jets are still a little ways away from being in the conversation. So basically, it's Miami, New England, and Buffalo the rest of the way. We'll get to the games from the Cardinals-Jaguar game, the Cardinals-Buccaneer game, I should say, Jaguars-Titans, and the games around the time of Steelers and Bills. And while we're at it, we might as well add in Denver and the Commanders a little bit later. But now we're going to take our first break of the show. When we come back, totals provided by CBS Sports. Download the CBS Sports app to follow your favorite team and your favorite sport all year long. Stats of the game coming up in just a moment. Plus, play of the game. More from Week 13's out-of-town scoreboard. A look at the playoff picture, the standings, our player of the game segment, the game balls of the game. We'll go visit with Sean McDermott and the crew for a victory speech of the Buffalo Bills as they improved to 8-4. Steelers 6-6. But I wouldn't say Steeler fans, I wouldn't say your chances of being in the playoffs this year are up yet. I wouldn't give up hope yet. Bills fans, we're 8-4. We definitely are going to need a win against the Bengals next week. No question about it. But we are also going to need a win against New England the week after that. So a week from Sunday, this week, against the Bengals, we're going to need a win from that week against the Patriots because they beat us week 1. Well, game 1 that we battled them, which was not in week 1. That was against the Ravens. Week 1 was against the Ravens. Sorry, week 5. They beat us in week 5 in game 1 of the 2 games set between the two squads. And coming out of the Patriot bye, it's game 2 between the two squads. A big game for both sides. And you know what? I'm glad the timeline is at 1 p.m. That's a trio of games at 1 p.m., which we'll talk about. before the show is up. Right now, we owe you a break. Let's get to it. Bills postgame continues right after this. Don't go anywhere. There's more great conversations and content right around the corner. Sports for Beginners will be right back in a moment.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, two powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
Siena T Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on Siena T Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on Siena T Radio.
I wonder if I could make it. It's almost getting to 8 o'clock p.m., and I am still a few more steps away from home to get to my computer to listen to Siena T Radio's Cosmopolitan Culture Club. The best of the best music from around the world. Can't wait. I think I made it. Siena T Radio, making your day brighter, one song at a time. Now, let's take you back to the action. To the rink and field we go. We find Scott McGregor.
It's the Buffalo Bills and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Wow, I feel like saying it's the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Pittsburgh Penguins, considering the fact that I was getting ready for Bills versus Steelers on Penguins postgame. But enough about that. It is indeed Buffalo versus Pittsburgh in terms of the Steelers versus the Bills. Steelers fell 26-7 to the Buffalo Bills. The final score was 26-7 at Acrisure Stadium, and what a final it was. Let's take you to, before we go stats, let's take you to the boys in the locker room to get a look at our post-game victory speech. Here's Bills head coach. Oops, that could have been embarrassing. I also have the Steelers schedule up here, just getting it up quickly to I want to worry about that. Getting it up to where they are currently in the week so that we will go over that later. But let's go inside the locker room of the Buffalo Bills and hear what head coach McDermott, Josh Allen, and company had to say after the win. Oh, and speaking of wins, Bills Mafia, happy, as we are recording this on a Monday, happy Victory Monday to you. In case you missed our final scores, we mentioned the final score of this game, that is, the Buffalo Bills defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers 26-7. They improve with that win to 8-4. The Steelers dropped to 6-6. Steelers came into the game with a record of 6-5. They dropped to 6-6. Buffalo came in with a record of 7-4. They improved to 8-4. If the Bills had lost this game, they would be 7-5. And the 6-5 Steelers would improve to 7-5. So either way you look at it, Bills Mafia or Steeler Nation, it's kind of a win-win for both sides, no matter how the game went down. Here's Sean McDermott after the game.
Great job, man. toughness, right? It goes a long way. It really does. Your focus and your toughness didn't go all our way right from the start, but we came out in that second half and we put it down. All three phases playing together. You know what I'm saying? All three phases playing together. Tough football, man. Buffalo Bill style football.
Yes.
At their place.
Yeah.
At their place. Now we get a chance to go home. All right, now we get a chance to go home. Hey, where's Vandy and Alex? Everybody should get a game ball. Listen to me. I got two guys I want to single out right here. All right, this man right here just broke the NFL record, the history of the NFL for quarterback rushing touchdowns. All right, next one here. Just scored his first touchdown. Hey,
I'm going to say something.
Real quick, listen up.
Offensive coordinator Joe Brady, baby girl, today.
Well, you went from win on 3, 1, 2, 3, win to, yep, you guessed it, Bills on 3, 1, 2, 3, Bills. How about that to start your victory Monday? Bills beat the Steelers 26-7. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to take a look at the stats for this football game. All right, here we go. Your stats for the game. As always, we start with the time of possession, and these are provided on the CBS Sports app. Download the app for yourself. Follow your favorite football team, your favorite sport all year long. For the Buffalo Bills, time of possession, 41 minutes, 59 seconds of possession ball. They had 26 first downs. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, a time of possession of 18 minutes and 1 second. They had 10 total first downs, 1 automatic first down, 5 rushing first downs, 4 passing first downs for the Steelers. For the Buffalo Bills, 9 passing first downs, 16 rushing first downs, and 1 automatic first down off of penalties. Third down. How were we on third down efficiency? The Pittsburgh Steelers were 3 of 9 on third down. The Buffalo Bills, 8 of 15 conversions on third down. How about on fourth down? Pittsburgh, 0 for 1 on their only opportunity going for it on fourth down. So big shout out to the Bills defense for making sure the Steelers not able to convert on fourth down. A little bit of a problem there for the Steeler defense, as each time the Bills went for it on fourth down, they converted. They are perfect. 2 for 2 on fourth down efficiency. Total yardage. Well, this isn't much of a surprise. The Pittsburgh Steelers ended the game with 166 yards total on 43 plays, averaging 3.9 yards per play. Aaron Rodgers threw for 117 yards. Mason Rudolph resorts the only pick of the game, just like Rodgers has the only sack of the game. Rodgers passing the ball was 10 of 24 completions, despite getting injured and playing through his injury. Josh Allen threw for 123 yards, completing 15 of his 23 passing attempts, averaging 5.3 yards per pass. The Buffalo Bills total yardage on 74 plays, averaging 5 yards per play. The total yardage, before we continue on, for Buffalo, 372 yards, 372 yards, was the total yardage on 74 plays, averaging 5 yards per play. Josh, throwing for 123 yards, making 15 completions of 23 attempts, averaging 5.3 yards per pass. Aaron Rodgers, who only completed 10 of his 24 passing attempts, averaged 4-point pass. This time, the Bills able to protect Josh Allen, and the defense for Buffalo able to get to Aaron Rodgers once. Joey Bosa credited with the sack, which lost 9 yards. It also turned into a fumble, of which Christian Benford returned for a touchdown, a 17-yard return touchdown on the fumble recovery. Rushing yards, 58 rushing yards for the Steelers, averaging 3.2 yards per rush for 18 rushes. Buffalo, breaking records. Not only did Josh break a record, but also Buffalo was breaking a record. a record that they set in this very stadium a long time ago, most likely. They rushed for 249 yards in this game with 51 rushes, averaging 4.9 yards per rush. What a day for rushing the ball. Both teams perfect in goal-to-go efficiency. Pittsburgh 1 for 1, Buffalo 2 for 2. In the red zone, Pittsburgh 1 for 2. Buffalo went 2 for 4 in the red zone. Penalties off of yardage, 67 yards penalized to the Steelers for 5 penalties, 45 yards on 7 penalties for the Buffalo Bills. 2 turnovers each, 1 interception thrown by both quarterbacks, 1 to Mason Rudolph and 1 to Josh Allen. 2 fumbles and only 1 fumble lost by each squad. The other 2 were aborted. Interceptions thrown by Josh and Mason Rudolph, 1 interception each. Touchdowns, 3 for the Bills, 1 defensive special teams, 1 on the ground, and 1 in the air. That went to Keon Coleman. Christian Benford with the defense special team touchdown, I should say. Josh Allen with a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown from Josh to Keon Coleman. A rushing touchdown, no passing or defensive special team touchdowns for Pittsburgh. They lose the touchdown battle 3-1, with their only touchdown coming on the ground, courtesy of Jalen Warren. Return yards, Buffalo with 36 off 2 kickoff returns, 36 return yards, no punt yards for them. 1 punt yard return for Pittsburgh. They averaged 12 yards on that punt. Had 5 kickoffs in which they returned for 127 yards total returned. But they had on kickoffs 115 yards returning the ball in 5 attempts. No safeties to a team, 1 interception thrown, no yards in the interception return. And those are your stats for Bills versus Steelers. 26-7 again. Game ball of the game, which is our player of the game segment, coming up in moments. But first, let's go back to the out-of-town scoreboard and get you more from Sunday action, as Monday is yet to come. As we wrap up our show, we will provide you with a prediction of who's going to win Monday Night Football. Kicking things off where we left off, we were still in the 1 p.m. slate. On Sunday, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers improving to 7-5, beating the 2-9 at the time Arizona Cardinals. With this Buccaneers win, however, the Arizona Cardinals, who are 3-9, actually the Cardinals were 3-8 going into this. They are now 3-9. Anyways, that's besides the point. The point is the Bucs win 20-17, and in doing so have eliminated mathematically the Arizona Cardinals from contention of the playoffs this year. The Tennessee Titans already eliminated from the playoffs. Yeah, well, this loss against the Jaguars is not going to matter. They lost 25-3 to drop to 1-11 on the season, the Titans. The Jaguars improved to 8-4. Over in the late window, before we go to Sunday Night Football, the only shutout to speak of so far in week number 13 belongs to the Seattle Seahawks, as they shut down the Minnesota Vikings 26-0 to improve to 9-3 over the Minnesota Vikings, who dropped to 4-8. Over in Los Angeles, it's the Las Vegas Raiders against the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers beat the Raiders, who go from 2-9 to 2-10. Raiders fall 31-14 to the Chargers, who improve to 8-4. And on Sunday Night Football, right after our game, final sending the Bills to 8-4 and the Steelers to 6-6 with a 26-7 win for the Bills. Denver and the Commanders, 3-8 Commanders versus 9-2 Broncos. And guess what? We have a tie as we await the final score of Giants Patriots, which goes down tonight in Foxborough on Monday Night Football. But we have a tie for number one in the AFC. The Denver Broncos survive an OT thriller in which the Washington Commanders force overtime. But in overtime, after the Broncos scored a touchdown, Commanders going for the win. They score the tying touchdown, but they're going for the win. They go for two. And it's the Broncos defense who gets the last laugh. The 2-point conversion is unsuccessful. Broncos win 27-26 over the Commanders, improving to 10-2. Commanders going to 3-9. Oh my God, Mikai, what a spectacle on Sunday Night Football in Washington. Not Los Angeles, in Washington, D.C. What a spectacle of football between the Commanders and the Broncos. That game went into overtime, and guess what? It was the Broncos who get out of that game alive in overtime. The only overtime game this week so far. Wow. Now, the Commanders did cover the spread. Bronco country, you get the win, and that's all that matters. If New England were to lose tonight on Monday Night Football to the G-Man Giants, also a team eliminated from the Giants would go to 3-10, and meanwhile, the Broncos would be in sole possession of the AFC bye week in the number one seed. The Patriots heading to their bye week this week would be 10-3 if the Giants improve to 3-10. And although they really can't save their season and get into the playoffs, the least they can do is spoil things for other playoff teams. Can they do it? I think they can, but we'll wait and see. My prediction coming up momentarily. Standings also coming up before we go to the second break of the show, which will ultimately be our final break of the show. We'll give you that time for setting the scene for Bengals, Bills, and Ravens, Steelers. That is when we will be setting the scene. And if you're tuning into this before you tune into Dolphins Postgame, we will be sending you out to Dolphins Postgame on Sports for Beginners, the podcast. If you're tuning into this after Dolphins Postgame, we will be getting you ready for another hockey night on the ice and behind the benches, and streaming later on Sports for Beginners as the Pittsburgh Penguins prepare for battle in Game 2 of a 4-game series as the Battle of Pennsylvania resumes tonight in Philadelphia before it heads for Pittsburgh for the final 2 games in the 2025-2026 season. We're getting you ready for that on the other side. With that said, let's wrap this segment up with the play of the game. When we come back, we'll do game ball of the game, get you set up for Bills versus Bengals, provide my pick for Monday Night Football, MNF, Patriots versus Giants. Plus, we set the scene for the upcoming hockey action between the Pens and the Flyers. All of that coming up momentarily, but let's get to the play of the game before we close this segment. No audio will be in here, but I will leave a link to the full highlights from the NFL YouTube channel in the description of our episode. So, who's going to get the play of the game here? Well, my play is going to go to the start of that third quarter. We're not even a minute in to the third quarter. We barely just started, and at 14 minutes and 44 seconds, we have our first score of the third quarter. Now, I really hope Aaron Rodgers is okay, but Rodgers, dude, at this point, I would have told you, use your legs, because Joey Bosa just came up and gave you a banger. I didn't expect him to actually injure you, but I did expect him to sack you. I didn't want him to injure you, which eventually was the play. And then Christian Benford. My golly, Benford. What a day for you. Not only did you pick up the sack fumble, thanks to Joey Bosa, who sacked Aaron Rodgers, injuring him also in the process, and Benford, you returned that ball all the way back to the Pittsburgh end zone. 17 yards. Yeah, you know what? Credit to Luke Wilson who was on the NFL on CTV after the game ended. Credit to him. The Steelers, they couldn't get out of their own way. The Bills found a way to get out of their own way, but I would say this loss falls on the Steelers. But the Steeler team in general, they just couldn't get out of their own way. They couldn't get out. They couldn't get out of their own way. All right, more talk about the history Josh Allen made, as well as the history the team made when we continue on Bills postgame. They are also next when we continue. Plus, Monday Night Football prediction. Am I taking the Patriots or the Steelers? You'll find out that prediction on the other side. Plus, who's next for Pittsburgh? Who's next for Buffalo? And how does the NFL playoff picture go? Plus, we set up the scene for Flyers and Penguins. Who's likely starting in goal this time in the Battle of PA? Find out all those answers when we continue after this from our friends at Siena T Radio, making your day brighter one song at a time. Don't go anywhere. There's more great conversations and content right around the corner. Sports for Beginners will be right back in a moment.
Siena T Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on Siena T Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on Siena T Radio.
Now, let's take you back to the action. To the rink and field we go. We find Scott McGregor.
Buffalo beats Pittsburgh 26-7. The Bills beat the Steelers. Thank you so much, Sienna, and thank you so much in particular to Nick Blazewitz for providing us with a updated version of The Melting Pot. Watch his show every Saturday morning from 11:30 a.m. Eastern to 12:30 p.m. Eastern time, which is 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Central Time. And of course, in the UK, we have different times there as well. Quickly going to run over that for you here as I have it on my notes. It's the Melting Pot on Saturdays, running from 11:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Central, 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. UK time, which also would be in France and Sweden, 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Eastern, those times. Be sure to also catch up with Samantha Ash on the East Coast from 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. Central, 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. in the UK, 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. in France and Sweden. And Robert wraps up the day with the Hourglass from 3:30 p.m. Eastern to 4:30 p.m. Eastern as well. 3:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. Central, 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. UK time, 9:30 to 10:30 p.m. France and Sweden time. But remember, after the show, no matter how long you stay tuned in, if you're in the UK, always remember, get to bed after the show. It always doesn't seem to faze me anytime I say that. Of course, the running joke on Siena T Radio is to get to bed for those of you in the UK who are tuning in to the show, especially Samantha's show, which is again in the UK time from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. UK. And if you're in France, I'd advise the same kind of thing, considering it is a 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. show in France, depending on where you may be tuning in from. In any case, Keeping things afloat on Bills postgame, it is time for Game Balls of the Game. Our prediction for Monday Night Football from yours truly, the host of Bills postgame, Scott McGregor, is coming your way momentarily. Will I choose the Giants? Will I choose the Patriots? You're going to find out momentarily. But first, Game Balls of the Game, which is what we call the Player of the Game segment. Game Balls of the Game, starting with the Pittsburgh Steelers. The first game ball of the game. Other game balls will be honorable mentions. You can get in on the action through Discord, unless you have problems accessing the Discord server due to accessibility, in which case refer to the WhatsApp group chat, where you can provide us with your play of the game, game balls of the game, standouts from the game, etc. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, the first game ball of the game, which is our player of the game from the Steelers. Going to give it out to Jaylen Warren. 12 yards, his longest run. 10 attempts, 10 carries rather. 35 yards, averaging 3.5 yards per run, and 1 touchdown to speak of. Next up, as our runner-up game ball of the game, that goes to quarterback Aaron Rodgers. 10 of 12 completions. 10 of 21, completions. Wasn't picked off, was sacked once, and lost 9 yards. Threw for 117 yards, averaging 5.6 yards per pass. Mason Rudolph coming in relief, but he was not able to complete any of his 3 opportunities. Also, one of those opportunities passing was an interception by the man who will get the first game ball of the game for Buffalo, Christian Benford. He made the interception, didn't get any yards or a TD on it. Well, he did kind of score a touchdown, but it was on the fumble, and it wasn't the interception that he scored the touchdown. So it was the interception, no touchdown and no yards, but he did score a touchdown, recovering a fumble caused by Aaron Rodgers during a throwing attempt. Benford's going to get the first game ball of the game. Second game ball of the game is going to go to James Cook. Another good day for James Cook, despite not getting on the board with a touchdown. And even though he's a runner-up, as I could classify Christian Benford as a runner-up, Josh Allen is the second runner-up for game ball of the game. Yet another game where Josh has thrown a touchdown and ran for a touchdown. Christian Benford with the game ball of the game for Buffalo. Jaylen Warren with the game ball of the game for Pittsburgh. Honorable mentions and runner-ups go to Aaron Rodgers for the Steelers, James Cook, and Josh Allen. Now, speaking of Josh set a career mark for rushing touchdowns by a quarterback as he passed Cam Newton's record, and right now he is the only quarterback in the NFL, in the history of the NFL, with the most rushing touchdowns by a quarterback at 76 career rushing touchdowns. He did that in this game. Associated Press from CBS says Josh Allen sets career mark for rushing TDs by a quarterback as the Bills mash the 26-7. Well, okay. Yeah, they definitely did. Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills came to Pittsburgh looking for something, anything really, to snap themselves out of a mid-season low. I'll go with a mid-season low that had them robbed of their wager, not to mention, of their swagger, not to mention their usual grip on first place in the AFC East. The Bills found it during 3 hours of remarkably simple and remarkably effective football in a 26-7 victory on Sunday that made up for, in sheer force, what it lacked in style. Allen threw a touchdown and ran for another. Joey Bosa sacked Aaron Rodgers to spring Christian Benford for a game-tilting 17-yard scoop and score, and the Bills, 8-4, and it set an Acrisure Stadium record by piling up 249 rushing yards while whipping the reeling Steelers. Maybe, but the Bills may have also found something that could be effective down the stretch. Josh Allen, last season's MVP, said, "Found a way to win, that's all that matters." Well, maybe, but you know what? I actually agree with that statement. Playing without their starting offensive tackles and coming off a loss at Houston, in which Allen was sacked 8 times, Buffalo responded by opting to gash the Steelers. James Cook ran for 144 yards. Ray Davis added 62, and Allen chipped in, 38 yards, including the 76th rushing touchdown of his career, the most by a quarterback. Still, his bulldozing 8-yard score early in the fourth quarter that put the game out of reach was symbolic of a day when Buffalo absorbed a couple of blows from the Steelers and kept on chugging. Allen juked past one defender, then fought off 3 more, while his teammates dragged him across the goal line. "The line coming to throw me in there was pretty cool," Allen said, "and pretty alarming for Pittsburgh. On a blustery day that made passing treacherous, the Steelers knew they were going to be tested by one of the NFL's best rushing teams. They failed repeatedly. Buffalo held the ball for nearly 42 minutes and probably could have had taken control earlier if not for a pair of first half turnovers." Mike Tomlin said, "That's an awful performance by us," of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I agree. All right, so first of all, want to congratulate Allen on breaking Cam Newton's record, setting the record in NFL history for the most rushing touchdowns by a quarterback in the NFL. Cam Newton's record was 75. Josh has set the record of 76 rushing touchdowns by a quarterback. Congratulations to Josh. Congratulations to the team on setting an NFL record, an Acrisure Stadium record, by piling up 249 yards rushing. Wow, that was a record that Buffalo set, and they just broke that record. I gotta find out what the record was before they blustered that record, because they certainly did that against the Steelers this week. All right, game ball of the game out of the way. We talked about Josh setting a career mark for rushing touchdowns by a quarterback in the NFL. We talked about the Bills mashing the Steelers and also setting an Acrisure Stadium record in rushing. Now, I believe it's time, before we really ramp up setting the stage for the hockey game, Pittsburgh Penguins and the Philadelphia Flyers. We'll set that up for you momentarily. But I believe it's time, as we continue on our football coverage, I believe it's time we take a look at the road ahead. Coming up after we go over Pittsburgh and Buffalo's upcoming schedule, we will provide you with my prediction for Monday Night Football, coming up in a few hours from now at 8:15 Eastern, 7:15 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Pacific, between the New England Patriots at 10-2 and the New York Giants at 2-10. Looks like that'll be a good one. Playoff picture also coming up after the schedule. With that said, let's drop right in, starting with the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills will start their stretch down the ledger to the end of the season with a game on Fox against the Cincinnati Bengals, one of 3 games that will be 1 o'clock starts. They will have 2 other games at 1 o'clock against the New England Patriots and the Cleveland Browns. They have already played Pittsburgh, so they will have the Bengals at 1 o'clock on Fox next weekend, Patriots at 1 o'clock the weekend after, followed by the Browns the week after that, before we get to the Christmas holiday. And then after Boxing Day, it's Eagles versus Bills from Highmark Stadium as the final games of the season rain down to Jets versus Bills. It's the Bengals first next week for Buffalo, followed by the New England Patriots, Cleveland Browns, Philadelphia Eagles after the Christmas holiday, and then it's Jets time. What we do know is this will be, in terms of promotion, this will be the game theme is farewell celebration as the Bills say farewell to the old Highmark Stadium. They will open up in the new Highmark Stadium next year in 2026. Maybe we open up that season with a banner raising. Maybe this could be the year for Buffalo. We will see. But first, business to take care of against Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. Then, of course, you got business to take care of against the New England Patriots, Cleveland Browns, and the Philadelphia Eagles. They're down the stretch before we get to the Jets game. Also, want to let everyone know that the Bills will be wearing their red helmet for this game against the Jets. They will be wearing their red helmet. All right, let's move over to Steelers. They face the Ravens, in week 18, but they'll also face the Ravens next week. This one at M&T Bank Stadium, and you can watch it at 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS. Listen to it on the radio, Steelers Nation Radio Network, or on WBGG 970 AM or WDVE 102.5 FM in the Steeler Nation. Same thing for the game on Monday Night Football against the Miami Dolphins next week, the week I should say following Baltimore's game. From there, it will be a 4:25 p.m. start against the Detroit Lions. And rounding out the Steelers' schedule leading to the next game against Baltimore, which will be at Acrisure Stadium, they will take on the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland at Huntington Bank Field on December 28th, 2025. Watch that game, the game against the Lions, and the game next week on CBS against the Ravens. You can catch the primetime matchup on ESPN as part of Monday Night Football Week 15. You won't want to miss it at Acrisure Stadium. And with that said, speaking of Monday Night Football, it's time for my Monday Night Football prediction. And you know what? I'm not going to turn the page and say, even if the Patriots win this game against the Giants, Buffalo's still going to need wins, because they are. I mean, they are going to need the win. They're going to need a win against New England, just like they're going to need a win next week against the Bengals and Joe Burrow. But I don't see the Giants winning this game. I really don't. But stranger things have happened. So give me the Giants shocking the New England Patriots. I'm going to take the Giants winning 20-10 tonight on Monday Night Football in Foxborough. If my score prediction is wrong, so be it. But I really want the G-Men to win, because that will be gut-wrenching for the Patriots. But hey, Bills fans, that's another victory for us. Bronco Nation, it's a victory for you. Heck, Dolphins Nation, it's a victory for you as well. Speaking of that, let's move from the prediction and let's go take a look at the playoff picture. We already know teams that are eliminated, and I'm going to bring it up here on the NFL app that I have on my phone, just to reveal the eliminated squads as we await this loading before I share my screen. Give it some time here. Might be taking a while. But anyways, we already know Arizona, as I mentioned, is one of the teams that is out of playoff contention in the NFC. In the NFC, also eliminated from contention, we have the G-Men Giants, who play the New England Patriots this week. We also have the Tennessee Titans. They are out of contention. The New Orleans Saints, they are out of contention as well. And the Las Vegas Raiders, they are out of it as well. So they needed a win against the Chargers, or they were out of this game. They were out of contention this year. So from the NFC, the Arizona Cardinals, New Orleans Saints, and New York Football Giants, they are out of the playoff contention. And, well, okay, our shared screen for the playoff picture didn't exactly bring up what I wanted. But you know what? It's fine. Bring up the standings one more time, get an idea of what that is. And with that being said, let's bring back up the division standings to get a better look at the playoff picture, which I will provide also on the CBS Sports app to get a better idea of the playoff picture. Here we go, back to the shared screen we go. And as you can see, you've got New England still holding on barely to the AFC East. Baltimore and Pittsburgh in a running for the AFC North. Jacksonville with a lead in the AFC South, but they and the Colts are tied. Denver looks like they're going to run away with the AFC West, but we will see where these final games go. Playoff picture. Let's go ahead and take a look. Who's got a chance? We mentioned already Denver is holding on to the number 1 seed in the first round bye for the AFC. In the 7th seed right now are the Buffalo Bills. The 8th seed right now belongs to the Pittsburgh Steelers, but they could go into the 4th seed if they can beat the Baltimore Ravens. And we've got Jacksonville, which is the 3rd seed right now. They would take on the 6th seed, which right now is Indianapolis. The Ravens would take on the Chargers if the Ravens are able to beat the Steelers. So if the Steelers beat the Ravens, they do still have a shot to face the Chargers, but all depends on how this goes. Buffalo would face New England in New England. However, if New England slots back in to the number 1 seed in the AFC, Denver would be where Buffalo would be heading if Buffalo stays where they are in the 7th seed. Over in the NFC, the Chicago Bears at 9-3, they have the first round bye in the NFC, but it's not all yet confirmed. It hasn't been decided yet. But if it were decided, if the playoffs were to start today, the San Francisco 49ers will be heading to LA to take on the Rams. The Philadelphia Eagles would have home field advantage against the Green Bay Packers, who are the 6th seed. Eagles are the 3rd seed. Rams are the 2nd seed. So they would host the Niners, who are the 7th seed, and the 4th seed Buccaneers would host the 5th seed Seattle Seahawks. Teams out of contention are the Las Vegas Raiders and the Tennessee Titans so far in the American Football Conference. In the National Football Conference, Arizona, New Orleans, and the New York Giants are also out of contention. But Washington, Minnesota, Atlanta, Carolina, Dallas, and Detroit, they could be coming up next. Same thing for the teams still in the hunt. Cleveland, the Jets, Cincinnati, the Dolphins, the Chiefs, Houston, and Pittsburgh, they could be next to be eliminated. So a lot of football still to be played and a lot to be decided. The teams eliminated as of late: the Las Vegas Raiders, Tennessee Titans, Arizona Cardinals, New York Football Giants, and the New Orleans Saints. With that said, that will pretty much do it for this episode of Bills Postgame. Thank you so much for coming in to join us. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. It's the Penguins and the Flyers tonight from Philadelphia at the Xfinity Mobile Arena. Game time is 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Pacific. I will be back with you on the Ice and Behind the Benches and later on Sports for Beginners for the second installment of the 2025-2026 Battle of Pennsylvania, which features the 12-7-5 Pittsburgh Penguins against the 14-7-3 Philadelphia Flyers. A big series for both Philadelphia and Pittsburgh going down in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We'll look to do some home cooking in the Battle of PA. That comes your way on Penguins postgame, right after the Penguins and Flyers game. Enjoy your day, enjoy this victory, and then let's go get ready for a big few weeks of football that could determine whether or not we we miss the playoffs, win the division, make the playoffs, but don't win the division. A big slate of football coming up for the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Buffalo Bills. Steelers fall to Buffalo. I am your host, Scott McGregor. We will talk to you after the Bengals and the Bills game next week. Here's hoping another victory is on the horizon for the Buffalo Bills. Going into next week, the Bills 8-4, the Steelers 6-6. They will face the 6-6 Ravens. The Bills will face, as their record is 8-4, they will face the 4-8 Bengals, and we'll talk about it next week on Bills postgame. Dolphins postgame is next on our programming platform. I will talk to you after Bills and Bengals for football content, but Penguin fans who have been joining us for the Steeler game, check in later after the Battle of Pennsylvania for Pens and Flyers on Penguins postgame. Until then, everybody, and Bills Mafia, go Bills! And I look forward to catching up with you again after Bengals. We get the win after loss to the Texans. Can we get a couple more wins to ensure we end up in the playoffs? Whether or not Kansas City is sneaking around to try and get into the playoffs, we'll never know. One thing we do know, they're not the number one seed right now in the AFC. How will it all shake up? Find out on these next couple editions of Bills Postgame. That'll do it for our Steelers recap. Thank you so much for joining us. Go Bills, and we'll catch up with you next week after Bills Bengals. See you then. Thank you so much for listening to Sports for Beginners. If you would like to learn more about the show, you can visit the podcast Facebook page or visit the official website. You can also send us an email at sportsforbeginners podcast8231@gmail.com. As we always remind you, it is not goodbye, it is until next time.